Good evening, Professor. My name is Audio Nyadikachi Christopher, student ID 133383224. And today I'll be explaining how I used the point to site VPN to connect two Azure regions. And I did this by creating two resource groups. In the resource groups, I had Virtual Network 1 right here and Virtual Network 2 right here. Right here. I was assigned an IP address of 192.168.12.0 with a subnet max of 24, which I divided equally between the two virtual networks. And in my virtual network one, I created a default subnet and a gateway subnet. And in my virtual network two, I just created a default subnet. After creating these subnets, I then proceeded to create a virtual network gateway for my region 1 in which through which I would create the VPN. So I started by creating a virtual network gateway on the gateway subnet I created for my virtual network one. Then I went to the point to site configuration through which I added an address pool. I put in a tunnel type which I specifically focused on the OpenVPN SSL. Then I use an Azure certificate. In order to configure the point to site VPN, you need to create a root certificate, which I did through PowerShell. And you need to export all the contents of the root certificate. That includes the private key, the client key, and the public key of the root certificate, which I did. I exported to this profile. Then I copied the public key of the root certificate, and I pasted it in my point to site configuration, which I'll show in the next screen. After copying the public key of my root certificate, I pasted it through which I saved my point to site configuration and downloaded the VPN client. And from there, I was able to send the downloaded VPN client into my VM, then continue the configuration process using the OpenVPN. I'll show in the next screen. After migrating the folder to my VM, I extracted it, then made configurations to the VPN config file. After making these configurations by adding the client certificate um, and the private certificate to this file, I then sent it to the OpenVPN's directory for the configurations to be complete for me to be able to use the OpenVPN GUI. After which I opened the OpenVPN GUI, then made sure that it was connected. See, as you can see, it is connected. And to test this, I ran the ipconfig all command to see if I am connected to the VPN on my region 1. And as you can see, I am connected to the VPN on region 1. After establishing connection with the VPN on region 1 to ensure that the file share and the backups were actually effective, I created a storage account through which I created a file share. As you can see, Okoji file share. Then on this, I would have to create a file on my virtual machine to see if the connection was successful. Then these are the files I created on my virtual machine and the dummy files I created on my virtual machine. Then this is the backup file and the other file. Then I then proceeded to make sure that the backup had the exact time, the policy that was recommended of me on my project, which says that the backup should be done frequently by weekly on a Friday by 11 p.m. for 3 weeks straight, and the backup should be done every last day of the month. So I made sure this policy change. I mean, this policy was changed on my backup to ensure that everything was running as required of me. The purpose of this lab is to educate myself and everyone who is viewing my presentation on the purpose of a VPN gateway and how a VPN gateway could be used to establish connections between two regions, help foster cloud file share, and also help ensure the backup of files created on a region. And the challenges I encountered while doing this lab was actually creating the root certificate and also exporting the private VPN, I mean the private key. Why I said this was a challenge for me was because initially while trying